podcasts are not necessarily representative of the coalition or any other entity. This content is intended for mature audiences only.
What is going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown Your Questions, episode 157. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and I'm joined by Emilio Lopez.
Sup, guys? It is question time.
Chris Seeley.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Carlos Romero.
What up, what up?
Brett Murdoch.
Pleasure as always.
And Adam Vale.
What's up, people?
Yo. All right. I don't know where Brian is. He's okay. Brett, you come up with something this time. What Britishy thing is Brian doing?
Fitting tuxedos for James Bond.
Okay. Sure. All right. Okay. I think we actually did the intro correct this time, so no hitches, which is good. We almost had some drama early on because, my monitor wasn't working, but Carlos was able to fix that pretty well, It's kind of crazy, but it's all good, man. So, yeah, we're back with you tonight, man. And I have full control,
By the way, what is it? Establishing control.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I think I'm actually able to talk to everyone now across YouTube and Twitch and Mixer. So if you see the name Broadcaster Kristen, that's me, okay? Don't be like, who's that guy? Kick him out. Fuck that guy. He's an asshole. All right, man. So, okay, cleaning up. Actually, what is it? Doing laundry. I don't know. There's a specific phrase for it, but anyway, house cleaning. That's what I got to do. Okay, so smash that bell button, please, man, because YouTube, sometimes they'll get to you, sometimes they won't. So please hit the bell on the notifications. But if you want to be 100% sure that you get notified of when we go live, follow us on Twitter and hit notifications on that thing, mobile notifications. You'll get, connected right away and you'll be good because sometimes YouTube gets a little stupid. And, as always, leave us your questions in the comment section down there after we've gone off air. And if you're in the chat right now, start throwing us some questions, man. And with that, let's get to our first one. This is from Is a Parrot, who is actually a Doc Gamer, our boy. And his two questions, I think he's trying to start something.
Got to be starting something. You got to be starting something.
What's going on, J-Dub? This is awesome. I can just see everybody now. All right. So his question is, after seeing the comparison with a game like Assassin's Creed Origins, does the panel feel like the differences between PS4 and Xbox One are justified? I hope you guys saw that video, man. There's virtually no difference, bro. It's crazy,
The thing is, again, this sort of stuff does not surprise me, to be honest. Are we somehow thinking that these companies are going to do that much with these somewhat more powerful machines?
I'm shocked and appalled. This is what we've been saying, man, ever since the show was announced.
The biggest differences you're going to see, I'm sorry, it's going to be from the first party shit, or the specifically console exclusive sorts of games. Yeah. Something like an Assassin's Creed, you're not going to see that much.
Tony said this already. It's called developing for parity.
Yep,
exactly.
That's what you're seeing.
So it looks about as good as it does on a PlayStation Pro, which is to be expected. What I want to see, and then you look at stuff like the new Forza game, then that looks amazing. And then you look at some of the other ones, and those things look really good. I'm thinking, in general, the biggest leaps in the Xbox One X, you're going to probably just see it on the first party titles and things that are specifically for each of those consoles, which is the Xbox One X as well as the PlayStation Pro. That's it.
Yeah, it's just like we've been telling you guys. Don't get me wrong, the Xbox One X version. Oh, by the way, it was some random dude that did this too. He put up comparisons of the PC versions of, Assassin's Creed and Tomb Raider. So it was PC, PS4, Xbox One X comparisons. And yeah, I didn't really. Okay, you could see more of the differences with Rise of the Tomb Raider, but with Assassin's Creed, there was virtually none. It's parody, just like I've been telling you guys. So yeah, not surprised.
One of the things you're probably going to see is you're going to have less slowdown or stuff like that. those sorts of things. But again, you're not going to all of a sudden you're not going to maybe some improved distances, and that's what we've been seeing all the way to the Pro release. Just draw distance improvements. Maybe you can choose a frame rate daily. I mean, to be honest, to think that this is the second coming of whatever is kind of silly. Anything I can see is you're going to get better performance out of the games that are coming out for it, but you're really not going to see that much of a leap. Not till Xbox,
I don't know.
Apple Xbox 2X.
Go ahead, man.
If I was watching the correct video, but did I see that the Assassin's Creed dipped even under 30 frames per second?
Mm-hmm.
So, man, it's like you can't expect like 1080 Ti performance from something that like has to compromise to fit in a slim box for a good price point. So, like, just I mean, if you want the Xbox X for what it is, just a beefed up Xbox One S with better performance, higher memory bandwidth, higher clock speeds on your GPUs, more computing cores at a higher frequency on your GPUs, then yeah, by all be happy, man. That's what you want it for. That's what you're getting. But I mean, for me, I'm expecting more games. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, man, I saw this one post today. It was from that Smokey guy. And he's like, God's not going to give you exclusives. Some shit like that.
Well, yeah, like, think about it. Like, at least in my case, I have an OG Xbox One. I have an Xbox One S. And I have a PC. I'm like, why do I need an Xbox One X? Like, I can play all my Xbox games on a console. And I can play all my Xbox first-party games at 4K native using my PC. So it's like Microsoft is like stuck in like I don't know what the phrase is, but they're stuck in a place where there's not a huge market for this, and I'm not too confident in what sales they're going to do for the.
To be fair, though, they did say this was not for the mass market. It's just for the enthusiast gamer,
Oh yeah,
it's like buying the Pro controller for the Xbox, right? It's like that sort of thing. It's like what do they call it? The Elite controller.
The Elite,
It's like the Elite.
This is the Elite console, yeah.
It's like the Elite console, which I think is great. I mean, I feel like if that's the idea behind them, yeah, sure. You can have your normal one that's kind of for the regular people. Then you can have your nice super console that plays games a little bit better. That's great.
Yeah.
And for those of you who haven't bought an Xbox One, this is probably the best time to buy it, especially since you have all those previous titles from when they started all the way till now. So and they'll run. I'm sure stuff like Halo and all that stuff will run amazingly on there. So yeah, why not?
Yeah, but yeah, there's not really much more to add to this because we've been saying this for like a year now, basically. Ever since Scorpio was announced. It's like, guys, don't expect this thing to move mountains.
To be honest, again, I'm gonna say this, and I still call this situation a rope-a-dope. It's almost seems like it's an excuse to start to charge the opening price of an original PlayStation or Xbox.
Yeah, I just want people to understand that phrase you use, rope-a-dope, you use the exact same phrase when we were talking about the PS4 Pro. Just
exactly.
letting people know.
That is part of the reason why I've never I mean, I would buy an Xbox One X because I don't actually own an Xbox, but like I'm not investing in a PlayStation Pro because especially what they showed in the initial reveal, that lousy video where you have Mark Cerny telling us how advanced this thing is. I'm not seeing anything. HDR can't see that. The 4K can't see that because everything's all 1080p. So even the games in general are not made for 4K as of yet. So you're just upscaling a game that's meant to be seen in 1080p.
Oh man, remember when we got in trouble for saying that checkerboard rendering is upscaling? It's upscaling. Come on now.
It's all upscaling. Come on, guys. You're expecting 4K now when high-end computers can't do a 4K 60?
Yeah. I find it funny that, again, consoles haven't mastered 1080p 60, but we're jumping off the 4K bandwagon. It's like, why? Let's master this first. You know,
I just feel, I mean, and yeah, maybe they see it as a reason to kind of like, because the fact there are a lot more 4K televisions in people's homes, it's kind of them future-proofing themselves a little bit, which I can understand that.
Yeah, that's
but again, that's fine. But at the same time, at this point in time, there are not a lot of people that have 4K televisions out there. I mean, they're more affordable now, and that's probably why they're making that sort of decision. But if you think about it, a lot of content's not even in 4K.
Yeah.
As far as broadcast TV, as some video services are still running in 1080p. So,
Yeah, I don't know. I've not much more to say about this. So let's move on here to the next question, also still related to Xbox One X. Okay, in hindsight, with the rumors of pre-orders of Xbox One X being canceled and the lukewarm reviews, do you think Sony made the right call by making PS4 Pro $399 with the modest power delivery? It's a good question. Okay, so context. So apparently this is still rumor, but I have heard that a lot of people that, pre-ordered the Xbox canceled the shit pretty much at the last minute, and it is a fact that Xbox One X is pretty much being received very lukewarmly. Like, obviously the fanboy enthusiast sites are loving it, but like, other places, CNET, CNET actually kind of ripped it apart, but most people are like, hey, this is nice, but there's nothing to play on this. Just like we've been saying.
Which is what we've been saying. There is absolutely no killer application for this thing that says, boom, this is the reason why you need to own an Xbox One X.
Everyone agrees that, yes, this is a very, very powerful, impressive console. But like you said, there's no games, so what's the point?
It's the same issue that the PlayStation Pro had when on its release.
Yeah.
There wasn't really... The only game that somewhat showed a little bit of what you might be getting in the future is the Tomb Raider game. And again, those things were just kind of, oh, hey, look, a little bit of draw distance here, maybe 60 frames here, but nothing like that'll blow your mind. Yeah. It seems like, okay, the way these companies were putting these consoles out, like it's the leap from the Super Nintendo to the 32-bit or 64-bit era, which is not the case.
Silliness. So yeah, again, we've killed the horse many times about this shit. So
I've heard.
Go ahead.
I've heard a couple of people that canceled their pre-orders that I know, and I don't know. And they're actually. No, I'm not surprised. Well, I'm surprised because they're huge Xbox fans.
Oh, okay, so that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's like, what happened?
Nobody who canceled the Scorpio, but it was just because financially there was no point for it, and since there was no games, he thought there was going to have something, and nothing released alongside it. So he was like, well, I can hold off.
Well, they're rehashing that slogan, wait for E3 again. I don't know if you guys have noticed.
They always say that though. Wait till E3. Dude, I heard them say wait till next year's E3 at the end of this E3. Like literally the same day the Xbox conference ended, wait till next year. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, like I know a lot of Xbox people, and they're all upset from what like Microsoft has been doing the past couple of years, and some people just like they don't want to say that Microsoft has failed them like in any sort of way, so they're saying, oh well, like, all right, man. So I'll say that this has been bullshit until this C3. So it's like, what?
Stupid.
I just feel like I do think that maybe Phil Spencer going through and canceling a bunch of stuff did definitely have an effect on this year as far as games coming out. I feel like there was the Dragon game that probably would have been releasing right now, right? Scalebound. That game probably would have been coming around now, right? Or maybe late this year. But maybe,
Crackdown as well.
Crackdown
was really hurt them though. That really hurt them.
So if you think about it, it's kind of these unforeseen things that kind of might have screwed over this launch a little bit. Because Chris, as Chris explained last week, or on the last show, is that you can't everything is usually set in stone when it comes to hardware. When you make that design, that is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to games, things are usually somewhat nebulous, where it's like, okay, you run into a wall, like, okay, the engine's not running right, or it's not doing something. This thing needs more development. And I think that's maybe the case what happened. It was kind of a cluster of multiple things happening when it came to the development side of games. I feel like maybe Crackdown might have been one of that killer app to come, to launch with the Xbox, the Xbox.
Or Scalebound. That would have been nice too.
Scalebound. I feel like those two games were probably going to be things that were going to be those games that showed you why you should own the game, own the console, or this iteration of the console. But now it's just like a desert. It's like, okay, well, you can go play your old games again.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else
Hey,
have
you
any
can play
thoughts?
original Xbox games. Yay!
Yeah, that's now. Yeah, you're gonna spend $500 to play Xbox 360 and Xbox games. Come on, man. All right, man. Go ahead.
Or you could just go in your closet and go and dust off your old original Xbox and be like, yay!
Right. Again, I think we've talked about this plenty of times over the last year. All right, so we'll move on here to Mr. G Megaforce 123. All right, so his question is it fair to compare old games to new games? I notice when I have debates about games in a genre or franchise, it's okay to say this 10-year-old game did whatever better and use that as a point in the debate. But when you point out a flaw in the older game compared to the new one, the line thrown out is something like, well, they were just working with the technology they had back then, or that was okay at the time when released. You can't trash it now. So yeah, he's pointing out the little bit of a, double standard there. What do you guys make of that? Is it fair to compare older games to newer ones?
I think in that context it is. Before we get off on like a big thing, I just want to throw out the specific context in which you're talking about. The one thing I want to point out is if somebody is pointing out something that a game was able to accomplish with limited technology years ago that current games cannot do, it is a fair criticism. Whereas if you're saying, oh, well, why doesn't it do this thing or this thing or this thing that modern gaming has adopted through many iterations of copycatting things like Assassin's Creed, then it becomes a less substantial argument. But I do want to point out the difference in if you were criticizing a current game for something that past games have been able to do, but this current iteration seems not to be able to do. That seems like it sounds like it's a special case, does it not?
Yeah, it could be, and I think that's up for debate too. Like weren't people complaining when they released the new Battlefront? It's like, how come this new Battlefront doesn't have all the old shit of the old Battlefront?
Which is a completely different thing than saying like, well, why didn't N64 games have trophies kind of thing? Like,
yeah, that's stupid.
And I know that's a
stupid.
ridiculous exaggeration, but it's taking things away from games, never good. Adding things to games, sometimes good.
Yeah. So
now we can move on to the actual conversation. Is it fair to compare old games to new games and all the reasons why it is and isn't? I just wanted to point out that his question seemed to come out of a very specific context that I think we can easily address or answer. In that, I think we can all agree if a current iteration game isn't doing something that the past iteration was, then everybody kind of goes, no, boo.
Yeah. Well, anyway, since you're talking, Brett, why don't you go ahead and answer the question first?
I think it's fair to compare the games if you compare them in context. A big problem becomes, it's kind of Tony's deal with BioShock. Is Tony played BioShock years later after everybody had adopted all of the great things that BioShock kind of pioneered. And he's like, I don't really see what the big deal about this game is. It's like, yeah, because everybody's doing it now. Yeah. If you put somebody down and had them play Assassin's Creed 2, they would probably not be like, I mean, it's all right. I feel kind of constrained. There are other games that hold up really well to the test of time. I could still go back and play Gunstar Heroes and have an awesome time. So it depends on the context in which you're arguing, I guess. I can say sometimes it's fair, as if if you're bringing up like, well, I feel like games are less games and more cinematic, that there's the element of fun is being focused on less by developers. Like, okay, then you're comparing bits and pieces here, but I don't know. I don't think as a blanket rule it works either way. So that's my
Yeah, there's exceptions to the rule, but I think, you do have to kind of make a caveat with older games because they weren't as technologically advanced. So there's always going to be a difference, right? But yeah, personally, I don't think it's unfair. You can't compare older games to newer ones. Even if like, okay, yeah, the newer games look nicer and prettier, have all these features, but I don't see a game is still a game. It's fair to compare them, but you do have to make some caveats here and there, just in case.
I mean, the thing is, especially when a game is kind of creating a genre, when it's the first of some X genre, is that fair to compare that the game that created the genre back in the day and then to a newer example of that?
Okay, so like Manny, do you think it would be fair to compare Gears of War to Kill Switch? Kill Switch being one of the game that influenced Gears of War with the cover mechanics and all that. Would that be fair?
Well, Gears had the roadie run, and everyone copied the roadie run.
Yeah. But Adam, you see my point though, right? Like, would that be fair? Comparison Kill Switch to Gears of War?
Well, it was nothing like it. I mean, that's the thing. It's like you could say that with someone saying, "Oh well, I can crouch," and crouching was in this game first, and I don't know. It crosses too many lines with that.
Yeah. What do you say then? Would you compare? Is it fair to compare older games to newer ones?
Depends. Only if it's within the same franchise, I think. Then you could say, hey, look, you guys took all these features out, and this is what people liked, and then you put it back later on. I see that a lot with the WWE game I was talking about before. It's like there's so many features that were great that people liked, and then they take out, and then they give some other crap, and then later on they put it back and say it's new. So we could compare. It's like, hey, your last one was great. This one sucked. What the hell? But when it comes to jumping from game to game, it's like each one has its own take on something similar. We're seeing that now with Battlegrounds, and they're ripping some other, what was it? The other game that's doing the building, Fortnite, it's blatantly ripping it off, but then they're adding something to it with the building aspect. So can you compare? Yeah, you can compare. You can say what's better than the other. That's your own personal opinion. So I think the same goes for older games and how people judge them compared to newer ones. Look at Mega Man, right? You like Mega Man. Everybody likes Mega Man.
Yeah.
But a lot of people compare that with other stuff that's new now. It's like, oh, well, they weren't doing this back then. It was back and forth. So depends on the game.
It's like I think it's like sometimes like the best way I could think about this is like example, at least from me, I think of is like when I forgot what movie it was that Tony saw, right? And it was a it might have been Blade Runner, might have been something else, and he remember him watching it and be like, I don't know what the big deal is about. There's so many other movies nowadays that do that.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of movies like that. I don't know which one you're talking about specifically, but yeah, that's happening where I watch a movie, I'm like, But this, again, the example with BioShock, it was like I played it 5-6 years after it blew everybody's minds. I played, I'm like, I don't see the big deal, But so yeah, it's definitely one of the things like people could go back to older games and be like, whatever,
But of course, you'll know that people will just lose their shit if somebody said, like somebody who grew up, who didn't grow up in the 16-bit era, playing the new Super Mario games, going
or
like
Sonic, or
I don't
even
know
Sonic.
I don't know what the big deal is with that original Super Mario games. New Super Mario is so much more of a better game.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. But that's a good point, though. This could be a different question, though. Should those people be part of the conversation? Because if you don't have knowledge of both of them, you only have giving half the story. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't even know if I would take those people seriously, to be honest.
Like, for example, like Assassin's Creed 2. I'm pretty sure if I play Assassin's Creed 2 right now, I'll be like, this game doesn't control any near as good as Assassin's Creed Unity or what's the new game? Origins. Yeah, so it's like sometimes games are only as good as the time they were set up upon for certain aspects. Like story, like that can permeate throughout history. Like if the story is good, and that could last forever. But for example, game mechanics, certain game mechanics, graphics, those will only last until they're until they're like kind of irrelevant and they evolve.
Yeah, I feel you, man.
There was an article a while ago about the whole thing with 16-bit and why people like it, and especially I think it came out during the Sonic time. But they said a big part of it has to do with just nostalgia and memories. It just brings back great memories of your childhood, so then you like it even more. Is it that much better of a game? Maybe not.
Oh, we got a question about that at the end of the show. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. As little thing, taste of things to come. There's again. You know what? I'll answer that later on. But
like you had said, you would nominate Sonic Mania as the best game of the year, and most other people were like, "What the hell's wrong?"
Damn, Adam, you're like a sage tonight. That's another question we have, and Sonic Mania will be brought up during that question.
Because they all know it's going to be Call of Duty World War II. So what's the point?
Get out of here, man.
Sunday. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Yo, but that's a good point. It's like, could you compare? Like, okay, is it fair to compare the new Doom to the old Doom?
No. Different studios.
No, but people are going to make those comparisons. You know that.
Because the games are doing.
Well, you can in different aspects. Like, for example, you can say, well, this Doom is great and all, but it didn't really have the impact that the original Doom had in its time.
You could say that too. Yeah, you could say that.
I think you guys might be looking at it from just slightly the wrong angle. I think the rule of thumb that ties it together.
Wrong.
No, it's like seeing a bunch of shapes that you just have to stand in just the right angle to see the thing. Like I think the general consensus is that amongst your average consumer, each sequel should ideally be everything that was good about the previous game plus more. If you ever run into a situation where it is everything or some of the stuff but other stuff left out, when you lose stuff, people get upset, and that's where it becomes fair. So like it's not okay to say, why didn't Assassin's Creed 2 have the same things that Assassin's Creed 5 did? But it is okay to say, why doesn't Assassin's Creed 5 have the same thing Assassin's Creed 2 did?
Yeah, I agree with that. It only works one way, Like when they were making Assassin's Creed 2, they didn't know what Assassin's Creed 5 would have, And maybe they couldn't have had it. What would Assassin's Creed 5 be, by the way? Would that be Unity? I think that would be Unity. Anyway,
but then it's people get upset when devs say, "Hey, we listened to our community, we checked out the forums, and this is what we added." No, they always say that, but then they take all kinds of shit out. And I was like, well, if you really listen, then you would know people like this.
Yeah, but that's kind of a different conversation, though.
I know a perfect example for this, actually. I heard Blizzard just announced legacy forums for vanilla World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
So and that's a great instance. Is it fair to compare new World of Warcraft to old World of Warcraft? Fuck yeah, it is, because they took a bunch of shit out and everybody's been bitching about it for 10 years. That's an instance where you're losing things. I grant you're gaining things too, but you're also losing things in the idea of streamlining. So in that instance, yes, it is the same technically the same game, even though it's multiple iterations later. But like it's perfectly fair to judge, the old version of World of Warcraft and the new version of World of Warcraft in that instance.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's move on here. By the way, I just realized since I have OBS in front of me, I can actually tell exactly how long we've been on air. This is fucking awesome. All right. So next up here. The future. All right. So now that Microsoft has discontinued the Kinect device that they originally said was integral and would never be unbundled from the Xbox console, is it possible that we could see a similar fate with the power of the cloud?
No.
The thing is, the cloud is not a construct. It's not something you can buy at a store.
Yeah, it's whether it's this if the companies decide to use a cloud-based computing solution or not. It's not like you just and how many games have used the cloud anyway.
Yeah,
well, the cloud could go away. It's the cloud is just a fancy way of saying online storage and online computation.
Yes, they're going to get rid of the word cloud, and they're going to say what is it? like multifaceted computing solution.
Dude, that's what PlayStation already does. Wait, you could upload your save data to be stored online.
Yeah, but remember, Crackdown was supposed to have the whole indestructible environment.
And they toned that shit down real quick, didn't they?
They were having issues with it. It just wasn't working.
Nobody's doing remote computation, and if they did, it would be in the framework of some sort of MMO.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, the cloud is not going anywhere because it's
not a
system. Yeah,
or to solve complex math problems. But I think the difference between both of those, it's kind of unfair to compare because one is a gimmick and the other is
it's real.
Is real. It's the future.
It's so real.
It's one Xbox made, and the other one they took credit for.
That do that. Look at Office.
Shit, like Siri is like a cloud.
Wait,
like
what
Siri
happened? You guys were talking to each other. Adam, what happened?
Office 360, where it's all cloud based. Where you can just run everything off the cloud, and this is actual, applications in an enterprise environment. So it's here to stay. It's not a gimmick.
Yeah,
like a Kinect or something.
Microsoft also didn't invent the cloud. It's not theirs. They tried to make the Kinect. Like the cloud is kind of like when you say the internet. Like yes, it's going to become more and more integral in things. And I'm sure as soon as somebody finds a way to rely on the infrastructure or packet information a certain way, yeah, they'll use it for offsite computation or whatever the fuck you want to call it. But the idea of storing data outside of a hard physical device that you have in your possession, that's not going anywhere. And Microsoft didn't invent that. That was a thing that was happening before Microsoft, and a thing that will happen most likely after Microsoft. They just invented the whole power of the cloud terminology.
Yeah. Hold on.
He turned it into a slogan.
A couple things here. Shout out to Daniel J, who threw us $5, and also Brett. So you're telling me that Al Gore will not disconnect the internet? That's what you're telling me. Okay.
I'm telling you he can't unless we run out of cats.
Well, no. See, the thing is that he is not going to. Obviously, he is not going to disconnect the internet. He's going to disconnect the World Wide Web.
There you go. Yeah, the World Wide Web. That's right. That's right, man. All right, we don't need to go on any further with this question, man. Next up, my man Hemdeal, or Jerry, who me and Manny actually met in real life at New York Comic Con this year, man.
Good stuff.
Fucking awesome.
I think I told you guys the secret of his name at some point.
Yeah, you did actually. Yeah. Would actually tell us again, just in case, for those who may not know.
I asked him right there because he's like Himdil or Heimendil or whatever you want to say. I asked him, is that based on the old core game for Sega CD? And he said yes.
It's fucking amazing.
And me and Adam are like, yes, Himdil. That was an awesome game.
All right, so he goes, I'm back in this thing. Okay, I actually talked to him about that because he was like, he listens to Throwdown all the time, but he just hasn't had time to ask us questions and all that. I was like, listen, bro, as long as you watch or listen, that's all we care about, As long as you're supporting us, but so that's cool. So it's good to have him back. So his first question is, and Brett, get ready for this one, man. All right, what are your thoughts about PlayStation VR actually being profitable for Sony? Apparently, they made like $500 million off this shit,
Told you.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though, and this is the part I want to bring up, right? Profitable and successful are two different things. That's where I'm coming at it from.
People buying games for it. That's where it comes in.
It was a very cautious release, and with a cautious release, like if they bet the farm on this shit, they probably would not be making a profit. I'm not gonna deny that. But it was a cautious release.
You can see by the cost and the technology that they used in it, they weren't betting the farm on it.
They weren't. They were making some cheap VR. Let's just be honest.
They're making an affordable VR system.
I mean, shit. They were trying to deliver because history and context, people. Oculus apparently they've just negated this. They apparently never promised a $300 headset, but they had all but promised a $300 headset. And when that failed to materialize, Sony stepped up to task, and you got a $300 headset. It's not a top of the line thing. It is not as big as the other. It's not as good as Oculus, but it doesn't fucking have like retinal pattern recognition. So,
Rectal what?
yeah, man, like the Oculus Rift does all kinds of weird stuff, and you can just see Facebook's hand in it. It can tell where you're looking on the screen and how long your eyes.
Hold that one.
Yeah, that's right, Chris.
Who talked about visual data mining?
Yeah, no, Chris is absolutely right, and that is the thing that terrifies me, and the reason I would not own an Oculus, despite how excited I was to begin with it. Vive seems to be the main contender in terms of quality and game release. The Vive actually has a pretty healthy development library coming out for it. The thing about it is it's still an indie scene, so you don't have a lot of huge AAA games, but they're not like gimmicky shovelware things either. They're actually small indie game experiences that people seem to really enjoy. I just don't have the time or the money for the rig and the headset. I mean, it's a significant financial investment. That being said, I think Sony's modest rollout, coupled with the fact that people kind of wanted to see this VR thing, like it makes sense, and the fact that they pretty much just didn't manufacture many and let their stock sell out, like, oh, of course it's going to be profitable. I don't think that's a mark on the health of the system, though. Like that's honestly still up in the air. I'm excited about it because you're starting to see, bigger companies trying to figure out ways to utilize it. But I think that you'll see it hit mainstream, but it's still gonna be a slow growth, and we're still gonna be restricted by the limitations of the system. I mean, the PlayStation 4 can barely run the PSVR as it is. They didn't have a need to spec it higher because the PlayStation couldn't run it at that point. So it'll be interesting to see where we go from here, but I'm not really surprised by the fact that it's profitable, and I don't think that is really indicative of the health or environment of the system. It just means that it was a moderated, slow kind of rollout that they didn't bet the farm on.
Yeah, you pretty much took the words right out of my mouth. It's like, okay, yeah, I think everybody knew that the systems were going to sell out. It was at least expensive, and people like new shit. My thing is, and I wish Brian was here for this. I want to know how well those games are selling, because this is all about hardware. This thing, they just talk about hardware. I want to know the software. I think that's more indicative if this thing is healthy or not. But yeah, it was going to sell out. That was like given. You know what I'm saying?
Didn't Sony just recently talk about a revision to it?
Sony, yeah, they are. They're going to do a revision for it. So who knows? Maybe it'll be cheaper, because it is actually $400, $350, $400, depends on where you buy it. So who knows? But yeah, and the other thing, I got to take a little bit of issue with the article I linked and some of the other headlines. They were saying, PlayStation is, PSVR is successful. It trounces the competition. Of course it trounces the competition. It was literally half the fucking price. What did you expect? We have one VR system that's $400, another one that's $800. Which one do you think people are going to buy? Come on, man. Get the fuck out of here.
And you also can't expect people and I've seen full VR, the Vive setups are awesome, especially when you have the controllers and all the cameras and everything like that. Like, people dedicate an entire room to this, and they do some cool shit. I mean, the kind of stuff that honestly would blow our mind as gamers, like the ideas of just being able to bend around and move in time and space and actually move physically through the environment. I'm sure it's something like I've never experienced, but that kind of thing is really tough to transmit to people. Right now, it's still just a tough sell. Like, look, man, you put on this helmet thing and you can look around and still play your video game with your controller. Like, that is, we're going in by inches and degrees here, you guys. We're not the whole idea of the fucking treadmill and the motion controllers and the multi-camera spatial censoring, blah de blahs. That's not gonna be your average consumer for a while. Maybe not for a full generation.
Yeah, it's gonna take a while. Yeah,
generation. I don't mean computer generation.
Yeah. So far, I would say the PSVR is to Sony as what Move was to Sony.
Was move successful though?
It's them dipping their toe in without fully committing.
Yeah.
I don't know how much Sony lost on the PlayStation Move, because officially
they're still making them though. Now they paired it with the VR.
Out of all the motion controlling rigs, they've somehow adapted it to their VR system.
Think about it. The move outlasted the Kinect.
Yeah. It outlasted the Kinect and the Wii.
Yep, that's true. The thing about it, so the thing that Sony ripped off, let's just be honest, they ripped off the Wii controls. They outlasted that shit.
You also got to understand that like the Move situation is not a big. To be honest, it's not as big of an investment as something like a Kinect or even a Wii, because a Wii remote has a fucking camera in it and all that shit. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
The Move pretty much just took things that you already had and added, and all they were making was a new controller. They already had the gyroscopes and all that other shit for the PlayStation controller. They have all the buttons for the PlayStation controller. All they needed to do was add a light and then some software to read that light on the end of those little things. And that's how their VR helmet works.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking like, Sony made a controller / adult toy with the Move. Let's just be real here, man. All right, let's move on here to the next question, which is, okay, now that Sucker Punch has revealed their game, what might we see announced at or see more of at PlayStation Experience? All right, speaking about Sucker Punch, I hopefully will see gameplay of this shit. Ghost of Tsushima. By the way, I don't know if you guys, I'm the host. I'll derail it a little bit. I figured out what my issue is with Ghost of Tsushima. I'm just not a fan of medieval shit in general, medieval feudal shit. That's my kind of issue. And I'm like, okay, that's something I just have to admit. I'm not a fan of that. There's like literally 1,000 years of human history I'm not interested in. Ancient history I like. Renaissance forward I like. Middle Ages, nah.
No cowboys.
Cowboys, I don't like cowboys either, to be honest. So yeah, that's what it is.
But here's the thing. It's funny because it's like you're interested in Civil War-ish stuff.
But that's after the Renaissance. Anything after Renaissance I like, yeah.
But I mean, but the West is not, so you're interested in everything after the Renaissance?
Yes. That's when I feel history got interesting again.
Well, what about Assassin's Creed 2?
Assassin's Creed 2? Renaissance.
I think you're talking, Tony. I think you're thinking of the Dark Ages.
Yeah, the Dark Ages stuff. I'm not a fan of that.
I don't know. I don't know if Tsushima
isn't the order
happened in the Dark Ages.
No, Manny. I just said medieval / feudal stuff. Like, actually, I'll be honest. Japanese history in general, up until World War II, I don't really care for it.
I think the other thing about the other thing is that in general we don't know. That's part of what interests me about the game, because I don't know about Japanese history.
Yeah, and that could be good. We
as Americans only get maybe a crash course into a couple of things that have happened in Japan or in other countries around. Most of our history comes from Western culture, which is the Renaissance, which is all that stuff, Greek, all that stuff. But we never hit any of the Chinese and Japanese and Korean stuff.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right about that. Again, I got to give a shout out to Daniel J, who just threw some more money at us. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Anyway, so
thank you.
Let's get back on topic here. So what else do you expect to be announced at a PlayStation Experience? So yeah, I expect to see, or I hope to see, some gameplay footage of Ghost of Tsushima. But we're talking about every game. So what else do you guys expect to see or hope to see?
I feel like we're gonna start. Days Gone hasn't been seen for a while, so I feel like we're gonna see some more Days Gone. Which I'm like, eh.
Hey, I'm the same way too. I'm like, zombies, whatever.
Yeah. So I'm like, yeah. So I feel like we're gonna see that. I do feel like. I mean, here's the thing. At the PlayStation Experience that you went to previously, did they drop any megatons or anything?
The last one was a huge megaton. It was better than E3. The Last of Us 2 and all that, Spider-Man, God of War, they dropped all that shit,
So I'm going to say we might see some gameplay of Death Stranding.
I might. Nah, man, Kojima's too busy.
I don't agree. They will show that, but that would be pretty fucking nice.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
that's the only mystery that's the only mystery that we know of that it's going to be coming from.
It's gonna be
Sony.
dudes crying in the aisle, man, just like they did with Zelda, son.
I mean, come on. If you think about it, how long ago did he leave? 2015, right?
Yeah.
Right after Metal Gear 5 came out.
Yeah, 2015, 16, 17, 18. I feel like we're going to see a little something more of Death Stranding rather than another story trailer or whatever, or what I call in the mini films, which is what he's been releasing.
Let me ask you guys this. From the time, so you guys are pretty familiar with Kojima's timeline, I'm pretty sure, right? Like, yes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
It's okay. It usually takes him 5 to 6 years to make a game.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. So, knowing when he left Konami and how long it took him in theory to get started and set back up, when do you guys actually expect to see his game released?
Listen, I said this shit when the game first came out. I expect this thing to be a PlayStation 5 launch game. I'm not even joking about that anymore, son. Like, I can see this coming out 2019, easily. Like, I understand that he has the Decima engine. He didn't have to create an engine from scratch, but this is Kojima. This man takes his time. Very meticulous, so, and he has nothing holding him back now, so yeah, expect that game to be, it's going to take a while. Don't expect this shit anytime soon,
I mean, they're always saying it's gonna be released on PlayStation 4. That's the only thing.
Oh, I don't doubt it will be. I'm just saying it's gonna be on both.
Yeah, there might just so happen to be a PlayStation 5 out at the same time. just like how with Metal Gear Solid 5, that ended up being on a 4.
Hey, and just to be fair here, don't put it above Sony to say, yeah, we know we said PS4, but think about that with Last Guardian. That shit didn't come out PS3,
Yeah, like we just got done talking, or pretty much every show we get done talking about, like, hey, here's something they said years ago that they didn't hold up to. Like, yeah, they're not people. They can just lie to you.
Yeah, I thought corporations were people, Brett.
Oh, shit.
Well, I mean, okay, so they are, and then they're terrible people.
Oh, shit.
Here's the thing. I mean, when it comes to games, you got to be a little bit more open to it, because there are definitely outright lies, but then there's those things to shut people up. And I feel like a lot of times they tell you these things like, oh, we're going to release in general here or there, just to make it nebulous enough or, vague enough so that you're just like, okay, I'll accept that for now.
Hey, Manny, remember when David Jaffe flat out said, we're not coming out with a new Twisted Metal game? Then literally the next year, they announced a new Twisted Metal game. He goes, yeah, I had to lie to you guys.
Exactly. So, I mean, there's nothing out there that says that they can't outright lie to you.
Yeah.
But the great thing about nowadays with everybody, essentially the internet never forgets. All that stuff is out there for you to read right away.
For sure.
Sometimes it's also like, and I have to say this, sometimes it's malicious lying, like they're trying to sell you some snake oil. Sometimes it's non-malicious lying, like take Fallout, for instance, right? How they drop the bomb and then they release the game. There are people constantly asking about Fallout. There are people asking about Fallout 5 right now, I'm sure. There are. They're like, when's it coming out? When's it coming out? So if you're making a game and you're behind the curtain and you're developing and getting into phase 2 or 3 of development, you're like, oh man, this thing is going to be great. We're going to bombshell this thing. And some asshole on Twitter is like, are you working on that new game? Like, what are you going to be like? Droughts, you directly asked me. I can't lie to you. My whole plan is spoiled. We had this big reveal and promotion and marketing, and we were going to release it during E3. And but yeah, no, Bill _Chucker from, Williamsburg asked if we were making the game. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and say yes. Like, you don't really do that.
It's funny with that Fallout, there was a shitload of rumors.
There were
even to the point of there was like little bits here or there, like about what the game was going to be about, all this stuff. But the thing about it is that they did not acknowledge anything about it. Even if those little sorts of little leaks and things come out, they still just like, no, we're not working on anything.
Yeah, they're like, nope, no what we're talking about.
But yes, for Sony, I would say also, like Days Gone. I would say maybe Death Stranding. I And then I don't know. I mean, because again, like Sony with the like, I don't know what other things that Sony can have in the waiting in the wings. I would hope they would say, "Hey, let's make Dark Souls remastered," but
Or Demon Souls.
Well,
Demon Souls
Yeah.
remastered.
Oh my god, bro.
I would say that would be a great thing to do.
I kind of agree with what the consensus on the chat is, and they're saying that they're just going to announce a whole bunch of release dates for their Q1 2018 titles because there's a shitload of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
there
a lot.
are. Yeah. I
We don't
agree
have-
with that. I agree with
And
that.
we don't have dates for any of them, except for like what, Ni no Kuni 2 maybe?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Nino. Oh shit! Doesn't Nino Kuni come out this year?
2018.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. They delayed the
They
shit.
delayed it, yeah.
Boy, it's
Yeah, so
too
it's like-
much this year, bro.
Like, think about it. God of War, Spider-Man, Ni no Kuni. How many dates do we know from those games? Detroit?
Yeah, they need to start releasing some release dates, bro. You know.
I think they're going to do that for a lot of those games.
Detroit tomorrow.
But anyway, let's have some fun with this, man. Carlos, what do you think or hope they'll show at this thing, man? Oh, hello, dog. Fucking dog.
I really, as opposed to what Maddie's been talking about, I really hope they don't show anything from Death Stranding, because I know we're not going to get that game until for 2 or 3 more years at the bare minimum. So it's just something that I don't like getting hyped for games that are going to take forever to release. So maybe, I don't know, maybe the Media Molecule game.
Which one is that again?
That
Dreams?
In Dreams.
Yeah, we haven't been talking about Dreams. Has been in the works for quite a while.
Mm-hmm. So be interesting to see what the hell they've been doing with that.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Chris, man, what about you?
I think coming up on with the popularity of Marvel and stuff, if I was Sony, I would cut together a God of War trailer where you see Thor at the end and him and Kratos punching each other, unmerciful, shattering Valhalla with their blows, and then just show the title and that's it. Give us your money now.
Yeah. Oh my God, that would be insane. I'll lose my mind.
You know that's coming, man. He's gonna fight the Norse gods, man. And we just got Thor Ragnarok out. That would be brilliant. That's a brilliant tie-in. That you can market it right against that.
Yeah, and I want to see that old school Thor with that huge fucking beard too. You know.
Yeah, the 2 goats.
Yes.
Feels like and so that I expect to see a little more Spider-Man stuff. Like Carl said, release dates on everything. Yeah, I want to see not even some more gameplay, but we've only seen that one villain, that Asian dude.
Yeah, he's the main villain apparently. You know.
Yeah, the main guy.
Yeah, this guy to throw in a lizard.
Yo, man, give me the shot,
Harry
man.
Osborn or something. The shock. Yeah, you gotta throw in some more guys in there. So I'm hoping we see more of what he's got to fight against. And Days Gone, they got to show a little more of that because it's in absent. Fighting zombies, and it's
Zombies.
Yeah, they gotta get people interested in that game because honestly, I saw the second trailer, I was like, eh.
Yeah, I know. It's like we've seen this shit already, you know.
Yeah.
Can they use the Days Gone tech in The Last of Us? Can they just not make Days Gone and just use the 50,000 zombie tech in
Dan, can you imagine 50,000 clickers? You get murdered.
Yeah, that's
can
scary.
barely handle 5.
That's scary right there, man. All right,
and I think we're gonna get they're gonna announce something that they haven't announced yet. I predict one surprise.
You're, by the way, Barry Burns says, forget the Resident Evil 2 remake. You're getting Resident Evil Barry's Bean Machine. All right. Anyway, Brett, go on, man. What do you want to see or expect to see?
I want to see more from Days Gone. You may all be like, "Oh, zombie game." Y'all said that same shit when Dying Light was coming out.
Yeah, and I didn't buy Dying Light.
Exactly.
and
Days
two of you
Gone.
motherfuckers did.
Yeah. But, hey, to be fair though, that game was good despite the fact that it has zombies. Just throwing that out there, you know.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. As a person who's kind of I don't know, I've always dug zombies ever since I was a kid. There's things I hate it when they do it wrong. I absolutely hate it when they do it wrong. But I like when they do it right, and this game seems to be more on the line of doing it right. The whole idea of zombies is a horde, and so I'm kind of excited about that. what I really think we're going to see is, I kind of agree with everybody else. Like, we're going to see them pushing a lot of Spider-Man, a lot of God of War, a lot of the things that they've shown us, but we haven't really seen come to light yet. Because let's be honest, why would they compete with themselves? Like, they're really going to hype out the shit that we don't have release dates for, that we don't really know all of the details about, because what are they going to tease us with shit from 3 years down the road when they could be selling video games next quarter? These people don't have the longest, vision. And a lot of games, there aren't that many secrets anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Everything gets leaked,
Everything gets leaked, or it's pretty publicly worked on, which is, kind of the case of, we're seeing a lot of stuff that's been pretty public in its development come to fruition, which means that we're probably not going to see bombs dropped. And I don't think you generally see bombs being dropped a lot of times from first-party conferences. I mean, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, but a lot of times, like, the games that come out of left field are third-party studios. Like, oh my god, they're working on this kind of thing. Like, those tend to be more E3 moments. First parties seem to be more open about the way that they develop things, the things that are coming, because they want to breadcrumb you with hype.
Yeah. All right. And Adam, what do you expect to see at PSX?
More of what we've been hearing, but it's just, that's the thing. It's like, I can't imagine them coming out with something. Oh, guess what? We have up our sleeve. I mean, we already know what's coming. Unless they start showing us shit that's way off in the distance, like 2019, 2020, 2021. You know what I mean? Like concept ideas and stuff. And that's the only thing.
Like Shenmue 3?
Yeah, Shenmue. Yeah. Oh, see, there you go. It's like, who knows? But I don't think it's going to be anything new. And then it's like you guys said, it's like, I don't want to see more Death Stranding when we know that's most likely in that window of 2020, 2021. That's out there. So what's the point? Just show what's coming out now within like the next year.
Yeah, I expect that like the games that are coming out the first half of the year, we're going to get release dates for all of those. That's what I expect.
Mean, look at this whole thing. Look how it bit them in the ass with Microsoft and Crackdown. They talked about that when like 2012 or something, 2013. Way back. And
Manny, that was our first E3 too. They talked about that shit.
Yeah, they
2013.
2013.
It's crazy, man. All right, so let's move on to Black Metal Gamer. So he goes, do you think moving forward the gaming droughts are over? I hope so. This year there was no gaming drought. There was no fucking gaming drought. That would be good, but at the same time,
Microsoft
that had a year drought. But at the same time, here's the thing: this year also did make me appreciate gaming droughts, because that's the time you use to catch up on shit, right? There was no catching up this year. It was just storms with fucking gaming. So, yeah, but I don't know. If it keeps up on this pace, I don't think we're going to see a gaming drought. Maybe next year, I don't think we're probably going to see one, but it'll probably come back eventually,
I feel like the gaming drought comes along when everybody starts moving on to the next thing, to the next console or whatever.
I think that's
and we don't have to worry about that for a while now, do we?
Why?
Because Xbox One X came out, so we probably don't have to worry about a new system until 2019 at the earliest.
Switch came out this year. Yeah. PS4 Pro came out last year.
So next year, there's no new hardware at all, which is great.
Well, you say for a while, like, yes, this happens every single generation. We are on the backslide. I'm sorry if this is news to anybody. We are on the back nine of the lifespan of this console.
Yeah, we are.
It is more than halfway over, and it actually has been for just a little bit. This part of a console's life cycle is when most of the good games come out. We're hitting that perfect stride where things have been in development for several years after the kinks have been worked out of the system, and they've learned to optimize, and we're going to get a slew of good games. And this will actually pretty much keep all the way to the end of the generation. And it always, until we get to the next generation, and then people will start developing for new hardware. And I actually disagree that we don't have to worry about this time, because the Xbox One X, it still is beholden to a lot of the same limitations. It's an Xbox One Ultra, but at its heart, it's still an Xbox One, and they will remake a system with, I don't want to say different architecture, but they will make a system with, say, higher processing that I don't know if you're going to see your integrated generations, or if you do, God help us all, because video gaming is never going to fucking change. But I think at a certain point they're going to have to change the system, and I think this generation is probably when they're going to start. So that's I guess a roundabout way of saying that we'll keep seeing this cornucopia of games until the end of the console cycle, which is probably another 2 years or so.
Yeah. I say probably another 3. Yeah, 2 years. 2 years. But the thing is, like, even last generation, at the tail end of it, we got a lot of games, but there was still the summer drought. We always still had the summer drought. This is the first year, at least in my memory, there was no summer drought at all. You know,
Well,
so that's what he's mostly talking about here. Go ahead.
There was a summer drought. It's just that we had so many games from Q1 that we didn't really notice it. Because if you think about it, like the last like Persona came out like in April. I don't remember what else came out after Persona, but then we had to wait till like August.
Yeah, you're right. June and July were a little slow. That's true. And then August, that's when it started again.
Nintendo padded that a little bit too, because of their weird schedule of trying to release a mainline title once a month, and just kind of placing them like, oh, we're selling a new game this month and a new game this month and a new game this month. And because their library was so small, it was kind of seen as a big deal. So and at least a lot of people I know that had Nintendo or got Nintendos, they're like, oh, well, it just feels like there's a fucking game coming out at least once a month. Well, yeah, that's because Nintendo is spacing their games out to come out once a month, and then you have your other systems too, so it makes it feel fuller.
That's a good point.
Yeah, which is the reason I'm happy for a three console ecosystem. I think it's good for everybody.
Right.
Yeah. We got Cuphead.
Yeah, I'll talk about Cuphead a little bit. Anyway, anybody else want to jump in on this? All right, take that as a no. So we'll move on to the next question here. This is a funny one. What are your top 5 game turds of 2017? He's talking about shitty games. What games did you think were terrible? I can't name. Go ahead, Adam. Go ahead. Go nuts.
Mafia 3. What the fuck?
That was 2016, bro.
What?
That was 2016. Correct me if I'm wrong. That was 2016. No, 2016, man.
Holy shit! Really?
Yeah, dude.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm 100% sure, or 99% sure, just to give myself a little wiggle room there.
October 2nd, October 7th, 2016.
All right, so there you go. I can't name 5 because here's the thing. When I purchase a game and when I'm reviewing a game, I'm very selective about it. So I don't really run into like, oh my fucking God, but it does happen. And the one that happened, the main one for this year was fucking Prey. I was expecting a lot of good things from this and it just turned out to be crap, so very disappointed with that game. I'm pretty sure there was something else, but I can't think of it. Prey was the biggest one for sure,
Why was Prey considered anything?
Because it was the return of the franchise.
If we're going by granted, it's been quite a while since the first Prey game.
But it was nothing like the first Prey. They just used.
I know. Yeah, it's only Prey in name. Yeah. But to be honest, like, what was the expectation behind that game?
Oh, Manny, who made Prey?
Oh, was it Bethesda?
There you go.
Oh, okay.
You just answered the question. There you go.
All right, yeah, because Bethesda can't do any wrong. Then there was some sort of excitement behind that game. I don't, to be honest, when I heard the name Prey, I was like, number one, it's like I don't understand what other than the fact that Bethesda was developing this version of Prey. What was the thing that everybody was anticipating about this game?
No, it's just that it was a Bethesda game, pretty much.
Is that it? There was nothing like.
Wait, is everybody giving just Bethesda do you guys feel this way because of Elder Scrolls and Skyrim or
and Fallout? And we've been saying, Brett, where have you been? You've been on Throwdown. We've been, except for you, obviously, been highly critical of Bethesda.
No, I'm in the Brett camp.
Okay,
they don't get a pass because dude, Brink was fucking awful. Like just because Bethesda gets put on a game doesn't mean I run out and fucking pre-order it. Now, if it's an Elder Scrolls or a Fallout title, yeah, I'll go out and pre-order that shit because I love those franchises. But it's not like anything Bethesda touches turns to gold. Fuck that.
Well, that's the way people act. That's why the way a lot of people act. Like Bethesda can do no wrong.
But again, what was the thing that that anybody cared about for Prey? Other than, I mean, there was that.
Manny, to answer your question, and this is still Bethesda, people are expecting it to be a sci-fi version of Dishonored, another Bethesda game. That's what they were expecting.
What it is? Because it somewhat looked like Dishonored. They were expecting Dishonored?
Pretty much.
Come on. Seriously? When I heard that they were like, hey, Prey's coming back, I'm like, okay, why? The last game took like 1,000 years to finish, and nobody gave a shit when it came out. Why are we calling this Prey? Why don't we just call it something else?
My thing with Prey, it was actually a good like story game. It was actually pretty cool, but the combat mechanics were so horrible. I had to stop playing it. Manny, you know me, I keep playing games until I finish them. With this one, I'm like, Tony, you can't play this anymore. This is fucking terrible. So I stopped playing that shit. But anyway, but 5 games is going to be a little too much. So just name whatever games come to your mind. Anyway, Chris, what games have you played this year that are bad? Have you played any that were bad?
I'm really trying to rack my brain, and I can't. I don't think I did. I don't think I was like, oh, well. I mean, some of the Disney afternoon games going back.
Fucking Darkwing Duck.
Yeah, that's the 80s. That's 80s rehash.
Yeah.
So I can't. That don't count. But no, I can't say that I have. Can't say I've recoiled at some games though. Like that's in the past. Like shit. Not this year though. No, this year's been pretty good to me.
I'm looking at my list here. Yeah, that's the only one, man.
Yo, man,
I got FIFA 18 for Switch.
There you go, Adam. Yeah, no, not really. Anyway, Carlos, do you have any turds of this year?
Oh man, I'm with Chris. I guess honorable mention would be that voice actor from the Octopath Traveler demo. But other than that, I didn't really play a game that was bad.
Yeah, no, it's been good. What about you, Brett? I have to say this is a good problem we're having. Just saying.
No, everybody's got to jump and disagree with me here. The only game that I played this year that I just despised was Horizon.
Wow. Man despises the game of the year. I can't wait until our Game of the Year awards, man. I cannot fucking wait. And Adam, what about you, man?
Well, the FIFA.
Oh yeah, FIFA. That's right.
Switch. That pissed me off.
Doo-doo butt cheek. Just the booty butt cheeks, man.
Man, I just can't believe how they were screwed up. And then the worst is that they have the audacity to say, well, we're not sure if we're going to release other games for Switch. You didn't really release a real game for Switch. I mean, fucking EA, man.
All right, man. Let's yeah.
EA's just like, hey, we kind of did a half-ass job. How come you're not buying it? Oh, because it's
exactly.
Why don't you buy it?
That's the shit. That's what I don't get.
All right, man. Let's move on here. Mr. Altjira. So his question is, if you could get a game set in any civilization, which would it be? He goes, my choice is the Aztecs. So yeah,
the Dark Ages.
All right. Are you doing that to troll me, or are you being legit right now?
I'm just trolling you.
Okay. And Brett, since you're talking, what civilization would you like to see recreated in a video game?
Oh, damn. I mean, that's a hard one because I'm going to give a long-winded nerd answer because I'm a fan of ancient history. The short version would be, I as much as I love ancient history, I don't think that there's a whole lot of archaeological evidence as to what everyday life was like earlier than like Pompeii, early Greece. I mean, there's snapshots, but you don't really understand how a whole civilization works together. I think Assassin's Creed, from what I've seen, does a pretty good job, actually. I know I've been pretty critical about it, but it seems to do a pretty decent job of at least getting the idea of ancient Egypt across, and even that's not all that ancient. So as much as I'd like to see games before that, they would be almost entirely fiction. So if that's allowed, then like, oh man, I want to see like 26,000 years ago. I want to see some fucking like prehistory monolithic shit.
Son of a bitch, you took my answer. I want to see the fucking like the old kingdom of Egypt, that type of shit, when those pyramids were fucking brand new. You know,
Dude, I want to go back further than that. I want to like go Biglia Tepe. I think that shit is like 12 to 26,000 years old, and that was a giant series. Like they thought it was a stone monolith, and then they've come to find out, oh no, it's a series of giant stone monoliths in a temple compound with like these really intricate like carved lions and shit. Like, so you'll have like a 12-ton block which a lion head protrudes from. So they carved this 12-ton block around this fucking lion head, and like it'll extend like 2-3 feet out, kind of thing. Like, so it was really advanced stuff. So there was civilization around. There were delineated classes and specified labor and things like that. So like, yeah, man, you can go back 26,000 years and still say that there were cities and not technically be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, don't you have the Babylonians back then too? All that shit.
Oh, that's way before Babylon.
Okay. Oh wow, that's crazy. But see, I would love that type of shit. But even going a little bit further up, even though it's still ancient history, a game set in the Roman Republic would be pretty cool. You know, I'm not talking about Caesar. I'm talking about like maybe a couple hundred years before that. That would be pretty cool. You know, or maybe even ancient Greece. By the way, not to spoil anything, but there's certain sections in Assassin's Creed Origins. I'm like, man, I would love a game set in fucking ancient Greece or Rome. This is fucking awesome. You know, not gonna spoil anything, but Brett, if you know history, you know what I'm kind of hinting at.
Nope,
you know?
I do. I think that's one of the reasons they chose this time period in Egypt, because they could pad it out with Greco-Roman stuff.
Yes, very cool.
It's a very entertaining time.
Yes,
in history.
I'll say this though: when I was in Alexandria, I'm like, because I was like, okay, Alexandria is a city in Greece. No, it's a Greek city in no, I was like, oh, Alexandria is just an Egyptian city, right? Named, that Alexander conquered. No, it's a Greek city in Egypt. I'm like, oh, this is cool, and then there's Roman shit going on. So I'm like, I would love a whole game like that, that'd be crazy.
Romania.
Yeah. Anyway, Manny, go ahead.
That game's already being made. That's the Sucker Punch game.
Oh yeah, Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah.
I really find Japanese and just Asian history and stuff like that very interesting, because it's so foreign, because we don't know much as Westerners. We don't know much about that sort of stuff. When I was younger, as an elective, I took Japanese, Korean, and Chinese art history, which it's amazing because their history goes back, their recorded history goes back so much further than our own Western history, because a lot of our history was lost. Places burned down, they burned books, all kinds of other crazy shit happens. But yet their culture, tends to stretch a little longer because they kept good records. So I like that this game is coming. I really wanted to play the Yakuza Japanese samurai games, but they didn't release those here. But hopefully, maybe because this Toshima game is coming, maybe they'll be like, hey, maybe these guys might want this too. So, but yeah, that and I'm going to say ancient Samaria.
That'd be awesome. By the way, even though this is actually, because he said historical civilization, this is prehistory, obviously. That's why I fucking loved a Far Cry Primal, man. I get to play some fucking like Metholithic man and stuff during that time period where civilization is just about on the edge of coming. They're just inventing agriculture and all that shit, but it's still savage. That was fucking awesome. Anyway, Chris, man, what about you?
There's just, I guess maybe like around the First Crusades, something like that. Like really involved with that, the wars at that time. That would be interesting to see. Although your guys' answers sound better with the prehistory stuff, because that's really interesting. But I always want, like, I do like the medieval stuff. Obviously, I love Dark Souls and all that shit. So put something like that where you could play in that time period and what was going on, because I feel there's holes in our history there too.
Yeah.
It's like, what happened in 850 AD? I don't fucking know.
That's right.
You know, anyone talk about it? Let's get that
Yo,
game.
man, what about 917, man? That's a hot year. All right, Carlos, man.
Maybe around the first Blackfire Rebellion.
The way you're the real civilization, bro.
Oh, okay, real civilization. Okay, got it. Actually, like, it would be cool to have sort of like a huge open world game where it's like you can interact between Aztec, Mayan, Incan civilizations back in the day. I think that'd be like a crazy ass open world game.
So Apocalypto the game,
Yes.
Yeah. In a sense, kind of, yeah.
You know, my game.
which by the way,
fucking sweet.
Apocalypto is an awesome movie. It's
Yeah.
literally a Mayan action movie.
That's awesome. All
It's,
right.
it's like
Yeah.
like the ancient Aztec culture. Like they had their own pyramids, and like
Yeah,
the
man.
Mayans have their own shit, and the Incans like visit Machu Picchu in his heyday. Should be crazy.
Hell yeah, man.
Oh, that gives me. I want to see like Druidic Ireland, like old
Ooh.
Druidic Ireland.
Oh, what about like England when the what was it the Saxons and all those guys were like about to form an actual country and shit, but after the Romans left, that would be kind of cool.
When the French took over,
Where they were still like the Dirt Britons.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the Angles and the Saxons were still two distinct peoples,
Oh.
That would be pretty cool,
Didn't
go ahead.
didn't the freaking what's it called? Like the old Scandinavian people took over England also like in time.
Oh, imagine a Viking game.
Vikings, yeah.
Ooh, that'd be sweet.
Aren't you already playing that with God of War, kind of?
Yeah, you'll get it in God of War.
Yeah. Anyway, Adam, man, what about you?
1850s and 60s of New York, like gangs of New York time.
Oh,
I think that would be cool because we've seen the Victorian era, like what was going on that end, but a lot was happening, especially in the Americas and within New York. I think that'd be cool because you saw a little bit of that in Syndicate. Remember when you had those gang fights and stuff, and then you take out the cleavers? That was very much like the street fights. So something like that, I think that'd be cool. You ever see that show, Coppers? It was on BBC, and it was about like cops back in that time. Just make a game like that where you're a cop running around during that time.
Beating people with billy clubs and shit.
Well, that's it, and hiding brass
Where they
knuckles
have
underneath your top hat.
they have absolutely no forensics.
Yeah, it's that smell and touch. Like,
Yes, that's it. All right, man, let's move on here to my man, Mr. Joel Torres. So his first question is, and Chris, I want you to answer this one first. All right. So why does Nintendo refuse to have studios around the world like Sony does?
They do have some in the United States and Canada, but I think it's mostly because it's very Japan centric. Like they like to control and keep everything close so they can observe it. Like I always point out Star Fox Zero's development. They actually had a portion of Platinum Games sitting in Kyoto where Miyamoto could observe them working on the game. He didn't even trust them to work out of their own studio, which is not that far away, right? So that's the kind of stuff, like they keep things close to the vest. Even there are horror stories out of NST, which is the software development arm in Redmond, of just development guys from Kyoto coming there and kind of like poo-pooing all over everything they do, and fights and stuff. People quit. There's things like that. So they would never put like a studio in Australia or wherever where they'd actually like lose reach. They really have to get over that shit. But that's why, basically.
I mean, the guys who developed Star Fox 2 were in England,
But they had Rare in England, but they couldn't do anything about that. See, they licensed Rare to work on stuff. Rare wasn't gonna go over there. But like a guy like Dylan Cuthbert, did go over there. He lives in Japan, right? He worked on that Star Fox there. But I mean, Rare. You talk about Argonaut. Argonaut was working out of Japan. Rare was working out of England, but like with stuff in America, they would fly over there and like observe stuff. I mean, there's videos on YouTube. Go look at the history of Star Fox Adventures, and
Mhm.
what it was supposed to be, with Treasure. Fuck, what was it called? Dinosaur Planet. That's what it was supposed to be
Yeah.
on N64. And go listen to that story. Miyamoto himself went over there and derailed that whole game. So it's things like that, that they like to control. Of course, you think he wants to go all the way to England? No, they keep things nice and close. And Star Fox Zero is the height of that paranoia. I mean, to have Platinum work out of your studio, they couldn't even go back to their own office and work on shit,
Jeez.
just so you can keep control. So now you understand the mindset. You understand why they don't have studios and tapping talent in other places like Europe and Australia and stuff. That's why.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything more to say about that. That's why I went to you
I think
first, since you actually worked there.
in general, Chris, right? It's like, yeah, Nintendo is a very much of a, they are a global company, but they are not a global company, as in they don't try to stretch out their arms as far as developers.
Beyond Japan, yeah.
Beyond Japan.
Well, they're very much an international toy company with the mindset of a domestic electronic company.
Oh, man.
You can look at it that way,
That's crazy. All right, man. This is a little bit of nostalgia here. Do any of you guys remember the last days of the Sega Dreamcast?
Ooh.
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
Why you gotta hurt me like that?
I still have the knife wound. I have
right?
a scar.
Still scars,
It's
son.
still bleeding.
Yes.
No, I remember those days where, I've told this story before. I legit thought I was done with gaming because I was such a Sega fanboy back in those days. I'm like, I'm not going to buy a fucking PlayStation. That's heresy, So I was like, I guess that's it. I'm done with gaming now. And for a good 6 months, I didn't play shit. I mean, I did play Sega Dreamcast games, but that's it, But that was a scary time, man.
I love those things that they said at the end of it too. They're like, yes, despite Sega Dreamcast not doing so well in Japan, we're going to continue to support it. And then they dropped the price of Dreamcast, and then the game stopped coming out for the damn thing. They couldn't keep their shit together. Like on our side, like the thing, it could have continued. Like it was doing well in the States, but somehow Sega couldn't handle that shit. It's like that. It was the total opposite of what happened with the Sega Saturn. The Sega Saturn in Japan had bunches of games. It was doing amazing in Japan, but here in the States, it was doing like shit.
Yeah, but the thing, I'm guessing, because remember, if you read that book, Adam, you know where I'm going with this. Sega, Japan, they're the last stop,
Yeah,
so
that's it. They have final say in everything.
Yeah, exactly. So they're like, hey, this thing's doing shitty over here. We're just gonna kill it all together. Even though it's doing great in America,
And if you think about it, they're such a small market. I mean, they make most of their money outside of Japan, so it's just surprising that they would do some shit like that. But that's how
Well, you guys remember how it was back in the day. Like there was a clear and divided line between import games and domestic games.
Yeah.
The market wasn't necessarily the same. So just because it was doing well here in the States, there was reason for them to come out and keep making games, but it wouldn't be just as easy as let's just make games for the United States. It would have to open a lot more studios to support it and whatnot.
But I mean, the thing about the Dreamcast, and that's a holdover from the original PlayStation, is that there was way more Western developers on the Dreamcast. That we're talking about 2K, Midway, a bunch of companies in the West were making games for that console. Yeah. And they were good games.
Yeah, the confounding thing is they decided to just close shop. It wasn't just that the.
Oh, Brett, you're having some issues tonight, man.
Oh, sorry. It wasn't just that the Dreamcast died because we had seen Sega systems not be super successful before. It was that the Dreamcast died and Sega closed up shop. That was there's oh, today's a dark day. Sega, they just bowed out. Their Dreamcast has died. What are you gonna do? What are they doing? Nothing. Crickets. And you're like, oh, okay. So I don't even think it was because I mean, the Sega Saturn didn't do real well, and nobody was really fucking shocked by that. But I mean, the Dreamcast seemed to be doing well. I kind of wouldn't have been super surprised if it didn't work, but then to just see Sega stop, bow out of the console race was the real kick in the nuts.
The kicker with the Sega Saturn, and that in the States and in the West, is the 32X. If the 32X had not come out,
I agree.
I think everybody who was burned by that would have probably, if that thing did not exist, I think people would have went, all right, let's go to the next level instead of this weird dopey stopgap that we had with the 32X.
This is what I say, right? And this is based off reading the book, so it is kind of hindsight 2020, right? If the 32X would never have been released and the Sega Saturn would have been released, but that cartridge slot accepted Sega Genesis games, I think it would have been a lot more successful. And of course, drop that fucking price, you know? But yeah, I think you're right about that. That 32X soured a lot of people, including you, Manny. I totally understand that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I already invested in this. What, the 32X was $200 and something, right? And now think about all the money that I had already spent, or my mom has already spent on the Sega console. I already bought a Sega Genesis. I had a Sega CD, and then this, the Tower of Power.
Oh, it was okay. It was terrible, but at the same time, it was like you could just sit back and be like, look at this fucking thing.
I like Chris's version of it, where it's like the Sega life support system, the Genesis life support system.
Yeah. Man, just to figure out where to put those 3 adapters. We didn't have big surge protectors back then. I was shorting out my bedroom.
Damn.
You literally you had to have a power, like 3 power bricks for that thing. One to power the Sega CD, one to power the friggin' Sega Genesis, and the 32X.
The 32X, yeah.
And there was that stupid friggin' like protector thing, like
it had a big RF plate, yeah.
Yeah, it had an RF plate because it would cause all kinds of disturbances in the system. That shit was what the. But yeah, we're going back to Dreamcast. I feel like it was like opposite day. I feel like once it didn't launch, like the Dreamcast in Japan did not launch with the as good of titles as it did when the States came. I think that also has to do with our good friend who was once part of the Xbox division. You know what I'm talking about.
Peter Moore.
Mr. Peter Moore. Peter Moore, even to hear him talk about it, he's like, listen, we had it. We had it right there. It was right in our hands. And we just fucked it all up. We had the right momentum. We had a bunch of games, and Sega just fizzled out on it all.
Damn shame, man.
Yeah.
Damn
and
shame.
I think that's the success of the Xbox, the later Xboxes, is because of that mentality that came from Peter Moore and those guys from the Dreamcast era.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Move on here to Mr. Hashling and Slasher. All right, this is a fun one. And, we have been asked this before, but you guys do need to ask us this every 3 months or so, right? What games are competing for your game of the year so far? This is all personal, Manny, let's go to you first because you haven't actually played that many this year. So it's easier for you to pick, isn't it?
It's a very short list, but I'm going to say...
Hold on, Carlos wants to guess. Let's see how right he is.
What is it?
Gravity Rush 2, Nier, and
Hellblade.
Hellblade, yeah.
I would go with Nier if that was my game.
Yeah, but he's talking about your top 5 or so,
Gravity Rush, Nier, Hellblade, Sonic Mania, and let's see, what's the other one? There's another one that I played.
I forgot about Sonic Mania.
I didn't.
I can't forget about it. The friggin' box is still sitting over here. Let's see. And I actually did finish Sonic Mania. So there's got to be another one in there that I played. Shit, I'm totally blanking out. Oh, just as part of the games that I played this year, Guilty Gear.
That came out this year, right? You Rev 2? Awesome.
Rev 2, yeah.
All right, Carlos, man.
All right, I'm gonna nominate 10 just at the top of my head.
Oh shit!
All right, so let's start with Horizon Zero Dawn, Persona 5, Nier. Oh shit, I'm forgetting Mario. God. Damn, I'm forgetting what else came out. Yakuza 0, Sonic, Cuphead. I need 3 more.
I really should not have gone to you, man, because you already named like 5 of them for me.
What else came out?
That you played? Hold on, I got to look at my list for you.
Heroes of the Storm.
Heroes of the Storm.
Mass Effect Andromeda came out this year.
Oh, I'm not including that.
What about Destiny 2?
Oh man.
Ghost Recon Wildlands came out this year.
Yeah.
We didn't play that.
I'll go ahead. These are my top 5. First 2 are in order, and then the rest kind of get whatever. Persona 5, Horizon Zero Dawn, Cuphead, Sonic Mania, and Yakuza 0. Fucking amazing games, man. Every last one of them. By the way, but I will say this though, because Persona 5 had that top 5, the top one locked. Then I played the DLC for Horizon. I'm like, shit, I have to reevaluate things now. But those 2 right there, fucking amazing.
Wait, the DLC for Horizon? It came out already?
No, it didn't come out, baby.
Oh, okay.
Your boy.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
But I can't say anything.
I keep forgetting that you are the man.
Hey, listen, all I gotta say is thank you, Sony. You blessed me, man, twice because they sent me that game before. Chris. Chris, go ahead.
For me, it's Horizon Zero Dawn. Was it Zelda? What's that play? Nier and I had one more. I'm blanking now. I'm getting old.
All right, hey, we'll come back to you then if you remember. Brett, what about you, man?
Yakuza 0, Sonic Mania, Breath of the Wild. Since this is my picks, Absolver.
I knew it.
And Mario. Dude, I really enjoyed the shit out of that game. I know I'm probably the 1% niche audience that they were aiming for, but that's why I say if it's mine, nobody expect that to get a Throwdown Game of the Year award.
Yeah. This is your personal thing, so that's fine. But from what you've told me, Absolver has a really strong fan base, so that's a good thing, Like the community and stuff is pretty strong. You told me, so that's good. Even if it's like a billion seller, it has its crowd, and I'll probably help it keep going.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and Mr. Adam, just some games that you think are Game of the Year for you.
Man,
Wildlands. I knew it.
It's because of the fun factor. It was fun. It was the 18 game that everybody always wanted and never thought they wanted. But yeah, that one, it's tricky because it varies depending on the situation. Like for example, for the Switch, NBA 2K18, that would be Game of the Year for the Switch for me. Like that is just on par with the consoles and the bigger ones like Xbox or PlayStation, and it just proves that it can do so much more. That it's not just up to Nintendo. That third parties can really live on there, in full force and in its entirety. So to me, that was a big one. Sonic Mania, and why not? That was fun. I still play a lot of that. Damn, it's tough because I didn't like, I have Horizon, but me and the dinosaurs don't get along. So I had to stay away from that.
By the way, can I mention something for Chris? Resident Evil 7?
Yes, that was what I was forgetting.
That's a
Thank
good one.
you. Yes, that definitely for me was that's the game I was forgetting. Thank you.
Yeah, didn't you get the platinum in that shit too?
Yes, I did.
Twice.
There you go, man.
Yeah, because I did on my wife's account.
I don't know